You're listening to the Monday Night Community Show with Daniel on BRFM.
And we're going to be speaking to Karen and Becky, and they're from the Swale Clinical Commissioning Group. It's part of a little regular slot we're going to be doing with them. We're firstly going to be speaking to Karen, so welcome along to the show firstly.
Good evening.
So if we start off, are you from the Clinical Commissioning Group, and what does that do?
Well, the Clinical Commissioning Group, I think, as you saw in the sort of news and the radio at the beginning of this year, set up and took over from what were called the primary care trusts. And they're responsible for buying most of the NHS services for local people. And the Clinical Commissioning Groups are run by GPs, so you actually have a local input to what's needed and a local understanding to the services and needs of the local community. I come in, my role is as a health inequalities project manager. And the reason we looked at this was when we looked at all the issues and concerns for the Swale area, one of the most pressing things was health and inequality in health, i.e. when you looked across the area in the most affluent area, the expected life expectancy was 85 years. But if you look in the poorest areas, that's about 75 years. There's about 10 years gap. But when we looked closer, we realised there was a lot you could do about that. Didn't matter where you lived. And one of the things was actually addressing what are called preventable illnesses, like heart disease, diabetes, some cancers, things like that. And what I do is I work both with GPs, but also I work and do public events with people so that we can actually look at how you can improve your lifestyle. And what we do as part of that is what's called a health MOT. And what that does is it allows people to come in and get checks for their blood pressure, their pulse, their cholesterol and their glucose. And we can talk to them then about maybe what might be a little high, what's good, and what they can do. And also we can then put them in touch with services that they might not have realised were out there to actually help them.
Now, our listeners might have seen in the local papers this week that Swale has one of Kent's lowest life expectancies. Is that actually true then?
It is for the South East. If you look at Kent as a whole, there are two areas which have the lowest life expectancy. One is Swale, mainly Sheerness and Leysdown, and a little bit in Sittingbourne around Merston. But also we're comparable to Thanet, who also have the same problems. We are not the worst in the whole of the UK, but if you're looking at the South East, we are some of the most deprived areas. So yes, we do. It's about a 10-year gap between the, I suppose you would say, the richest or most affluent areas and the poorest areas.
And I know next you wanted to talk a little bit about events.
Yes, I know we spoke briefly just before the records about the health MOTs, and I'm certain some people, especially on the island, have been to see the health MOTs at the Gateway in Sheerness and at the Forum. But we are doing some more. We've had a great response when we've put them on. As I said, what we do is we give people an opportunity to, in effect, get a health MOT, check out what's called a BMI, which is their body mass index which is basically, like me, how tall they are to how wide they are, and then they get a figure, which is good, bad or indifferent. Again, they can have their pulse done, blood pressure done, get their cholesterol checked, and also get their glucose checked. And the glucose is, if it's high, it might mean that there might be some problems with diabetes later on in life. So we give them a quick check and tell them how good, bad or indifferent they are, as you say. Along with that, we also have health trainers there who can talk to them about what they can do, and we like to have other people come and be involved as well. So, for example, in the past we've had the fire brigade come along and do their assault course. So if you want an opportunity just to see, how good you are on an assault course and whether or not you could be a fireman, you can come along and try that with people. And also we'd like to invite the community chef down, and certainly with some of the other things, local activities in the area, come along so you can get a taster about what's going on in your area, as well as finding out where you are, how healthy you are, and what you can do about it. We like to sort of have it be a fun event, but also somewhere where you can take something away with you to, one starting thing to make a change in life. So as part of that, we have got 2 events coming up. One, we're working with Swale Borough Council, and they have a Living in Safety event on the 1st of October at the Wyvern Hall, and we will be doing our health MOTs down there as part of that event. And then we ourselves are putting on another event at the Beaches Children's Centre at Leysdown on Friday the 25th. And we should hopefully, we're trying to sort this out at the moment, see if we can get the community chef and possibly the fire brigade down there as well with us. So it should be a nice crowd and it should be a fun day.
And now we're going to be talking to Becky. Becky, firstly, welcome along to the show.
Good evening, everybody. I am here as a health inequalities nurse and a mother of 3. I will be at the Leysdown event also, which Karen has spoken about earlier. And my purpose really here this evening is to speak to you guys about breastfeeding. Breastfeeding numbers have been dropping rapidly over recent years, and my interest is that we all start to together work towards giving children and babies the best start, and this is one of the best things that you can do as a mother is breastfeed your child where able. There are particularly low levels on the Isle of Sheppey of breastfeeding, so I'm hoping to work together with people on this.
So why don't mums breastfeed then, Becky?
Well, I think surrounding the issue of breastfeeding are that many myths and mistaken facts, and for some mums they just find it really difficult, especially because it really hurts, and that's speaking from personal experience. It was at least 6 weeks before the pain started to actually decrease, and I started to feel confident about my breastfeeding. And also, I mean, there are just so many things, like you just don't know how much milk your baby is getting. You don't know if they're satisfied in any way.
We've been talking a little bit about breastfeeding with Becky, and I suppose one of the biggest advantages is that breastfeeding milk is free, Becky.
Yes, it is, and it's always at the right temperature. But very importantly, mums must remember to eat well and stay healthy so that their baby gets all of the vitamins it needs. Mother's milk also passes on natural immunities, so there are so many different things that this wonderful liquid gold can provide to the baby to ward off illnesses. It has natural antibiotics in it. It has natural painkillers, so if your baby for some reason was in pain or got hurt accidentally, and when there are lots of siblings around, as in my experience, something somehow does end up flying across the room at times, and unfortunately the baby can be there. So this very quick remedy is there at hand always. I don't need to climb into any cupboards where there's medicine locked away or a bandage, because this milk actually provides the answer. There is nothing actually comparable to this milk, because it is also changing on a weekly basis with your growing child. So from the moment your baby is born, your body adapts to this milk and changes what's actually within that milk week by week to meet your baby's growing needs. So, there is actually no milk out there that can mimic this or even anywhere comparable to that.
So why don't mums breastfeed more then?
Well, there is the obvious thing that bottles are very, very convenient, and I've actually used bottles. I unfortunately wasn't able to breastfeed my first baby. It all went horribly wrong when I got an infection, and this is very common. A lot of women, it's a very stressful time, infections come along and you're not getting the best night's sleep at the beginning, particularly if it's your first. And it just doesn't work out for one reason or another. So, and you mustn't beat yourself up. If it does go wrong, it's gone wrong. You've given it your best shot, and you've tried. And even if your baby has just received that initial little bit of colostrum, the first milk that's there, which isn't actually classed as milk, before your milk actually comes in, you've done something very special and unique for your baby. Also, it means if you bottle feed, others can feed the baby, and this is very convenient. We're a growing society of working mothers, and also just needing a break at times. But this is where your best friend, the pump, can come in, and you can express. There are some very good pumps out there. You don't have to use the manual ones. You can hire pumps. If you speak to your health visitors, they can put you in touch with people that you could hire a really good electric pump from. And if you express the milk into a bottle, this can be stored in the fridge and up to 3 months in a freezer. I think that's the latest. And this will provide you with the long-earned break that you need at times. And when it comes to going back to work, the milk will be there stored away. The other good opportunity, which I've always taken, is, if my baby's been napping, or sometimes they oversleep and the milk's there because you're bursting, I've expressed off then and stored the milk. So you can use these little opportunities to just tuck some away. And if the milk is stored away and not being used, you can always add that to food when they're being weaned. There are all sorts of ways which this stored away milk can be used.
So, Becky, what if mums feel embarrassed to feed in front of others outside of the house also?
Well, this is quite normal for people to actually feel embarrassed. We're exposing a little bit of ourselves, and it's something private, and perhaps for those doing it for the first time, you do feel all eyes are on you, especially if you're getting these boobies out and there are men around. It's going to feel as if they're staring, even if they're not. But there are ways around this, and let them stare, I say. Be proud of yourself. You're doing this for your baby. But, you probably will feel embarrassed for the first time. So the way around this is there are some very good discreet feeding tops out there. The problem is that some of these discreet feeding tops particularly are made for breastfeeding, and they're very expensive. So a cheap way around it is to get yourself a cheap little vest top and put a t-shirt over the top. So this way you can lift up the t-shirt and pull down the vest top, so then you've got the place needed exposed, ready for your baby. And that's very discreet. Nobody can actually see anything around your breast, just your baby gets access to what it needs. There are also these very good aprons now on the market, which actually look just like cooking aprons, but they're particularly made especially for breastfeeding, and they undo on the side with a bit of Velcro. If you look them up, you'll see what I'm talking about. They're actually very good and becoming very popular. The other thing that increasingly I think we're becoming aware of in the public eye is on the media and through media attention is negative publicity around breastfeeding, where women have been in a public area. There was one recent example where a lady was in a swimming pool and had breastfed her baby, and not to discourage any of you guys out there, because the swimming pool actually got into trouble for this. They decided to ask this lady to leave the swimming pool area because she had breastfed her baby there, and lots of people thought this was unhygienic and all things like that. Anyway, the swimming pool has had to completely reconsider that, and this was somewhere else in England. And you will feel reassured to know that your local swimming area is very breastfeeding friendly, and if you did need them to find you somewhere discreet to feed your baby, all you have to do is ask them in reception and they will find you a discreet area to do this. There are also in libraries and other public areas places allocated for breastfeeding if you require such a specific place. Otherwise, generally there is somewhere in a cafe that is a discreet area that you could go to. So, I mean, if you are determined to do this, then you will find a way. And good on you, be proud of yourself.
So where can mums go for help?
Well, it's so vitally important to have support in those early few weeks. And personally for me, it was so painful for the first 6 weeks, and not around the front area, but actually down the nerves, down my back. And I had to grit my teeth very hard for 6 weeks, and I'm not the only one. Generally, I think I'm fairer skinned, and the darker skinned you go, the less painful it is, I've been told. So I think you're looking from anywhere from 2 weeks to 6 weeks, and obviously I was on the more extreme end of the pain. But I did persevere, despite all the negative comments from people, because there is a lot of negativity around it, and, you know, people around me didn't want to see me suffering, particularly my mother. She didn't want to see me crying on a daily basis because I was in so much pain, and taking painkillers around the clock to carry on. And I was advised to stop by so many people. Surely it's not worth all the pain. But I wanted to do this for my baby. I knew that if I persevered, the pain would eventually go. And there are some very good creams also which you can use, which protect around your nipples, so they don't get as sore or cracked or bleed, but do expect them to. And it is basically, we women are turning silk into leather. So, you know, once we've broken through into the leather region, then you will be walking around with a smile on your face, and I'll recognise that smile if I see you. Now, the other thing is, I think we are used as a dummy initially, and that's the really important thing to remember. Don't forget, you know, you are the baby's drink and food. So the first part of breastfeeding is just a drink for your baby, and you think, oh, right, now they've had a feed. Well, actually, you know, sometimes they'll just have a drink, come off, and they'll be crying again 5 minutes later, but it's just because they've just had a drink and now they want their dinner, please. So, you know, you will be attached to this baby all the time, especially when you're initially establishing your breastfeeding, and you will feel like a dummy. And a lot of people will say, oh, are they feeding again? Or they will actually tell you you're just being used as a dummy. Do not take this as a negative comment. Yes, we are dummies initially. This is how your body learns to make more milk. Each time your baby latches on, it sends a signal to your brain that to make more milk for your baby, and this is how your milk supply increases initially to reach the right amount to provide for your baby. So, in order to make lots of lovely milk for your baby, you need to drink plenty of fluids yourself, and you will feel thirsty, believe you me, and a pint glass will become your best friend. And always, whenever anybody says, can I get you anything, say yes please, a drink of water or a drink of whatever you like, and hand them your pint glass, because this is really, really important that you stay hydrated, and then you can make lots of lovely milk. Also, eat plenty of food. This is your license to eat healthily, but I'm not sure if I'm supposed to say as much as you like, but you do need to eat more than you ordinarily would to keep up with those calories, because you're making these extra calories for your milk and for you, and to help you to stay healthy, because who knows how much sleep you're going to be getting, and every baby is different. So drink plenty and eat plenty. Now, another thing which you may come across is, well, you need to get some reassurance that your baby's gaining weight. So go to your local clinics and get your babies weighed. This way, you'll see that actually what you're doing is a fantastic job. The line of the breastfed baby does go up differently in your red book to a bottle-fed baby, and I'm not sure whether those charts are still the same, whether they're done according to breastfed or bottle-fed babies. I think there are both now in those red books. So you should see the climb in your baby's weight from going to get your baby weighed regularly. Somebody did suggest to me to jump on a Wii Fit board regularly with the baby in my arms, and then I would see that the baby was gaining weight. But I think it is very important to keep up with how much your baby is weighing. The other thing is that your baby, if it were bottle fed, could be taking roughly, this is just as an example, 6 ounces of milk, and this is where you need to realise that breast milk, you do not need the same amount of volume, because it's what's in the milk that's more important. And I think lots of people get confused because they think if they're breastfeeding, they don't know how much milk the baby is getting. Now, a breastfed baby will not take as much. They will just take what they need, because the content is so different. The fat content in breast milk and the nutrient content is all very different. Breast milk is made for your individual baby, and no other milk is comparable to this. So your milk that you've made for your baby, and you need to be proud of this. However, despite trying everything, it still doesn't work out for everybody, despite having all the support in the world. And, you may be the first generation in your family to be doing this. And I think that's actually really brave of you if you are going out there and trying without any backup in that sense. But there is some support out there. There are a couple of breastfeeding groups locally at the children's centres. There's one at the beaches in Leysdown on a Thursday morning called Tummy to Mummy, and that's from 9:30 until 11:30. And there's also another one at the Seashells on a Tuesday morning from 10:30 until 12, which is called Breast Buddies. These will also be on the BRFM website later on, so you can look up those times. I think it's so important that you do actually get support. So use your local group to get support, especially in those first few weeks of establishing your milk supply. So try and get to one of these breastfeeding groups, especially if you've never breastfed before. They will be able to give you helpful tips on your latch, your technique, and you'll be able to see other babies doing it, and actually you will start to grow in confidence as time goes by and realise what a wonderful thing you're doing for your baby and what a fantastic choice you've made. So utilise your local groups for breastfeeding. Also, utilise your health visitors, your midwives. They're there to help you and guide you with breastfeeding. They're trained to do this. This is their job to help you. So, don't be afraid to get in touch with them. And another thing, if you do know someone in the family, even somebody distant, utilise that person or a friend, somebody who does have experience of breastfeeding, because, they really will be able to help you. There are obviously national places like Leysdown and NCT, which are well recognised groups that can offer lots of advice, and they have 24-hour phone-ins even, so you can get those online, those numbers, and I'll pass those on as well. So these are really your support networks around you, and they are there even if you do have to hunt a little bit. Just try and get access to those. Now, I'd just like to say well done if you do manage it, and well done for trying if you've given it a go. And I will be at the beaches on the Friday the 25th as well, and I can just give you advice as a breastfeeding mother if anybody wants to come and see me there for a little bit of advice. It will be obviously confidential and discreet. And so I am here today with the Beats and Breaths team, and we will be there at the Beaches Children's Centre in Leysdown on Friday the 25th of October from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. We look forward to seeing you. Thank you, guys.
Well, Becky, thank you very, very much. You are listening to BRFM 95.6. We've been talking to Becky and Karen, and of course they've come along as part of the slot I do with the Swale Clinical Commissioning Group right here at BRFM on the Monday Night Community Show this evening.